Aloha. Welcome to A Course in Miracles, Workbook for Students, Lesson 45. God is the mind with which I think. It starts out, today's idea holds the key to what your real thoughts are. And you might be thinking, the key to what my real thoughts are? What do you mean, my real thoughts? So it says, there is nothing that you think, just as nothing that you think you see is related to vision in any way. There is no relationship between what is real and what you think is real. Nothing that you think or your real thoughts resemble your real thoughts in any respect. Nothing that you think you see bears any resemblance to what vision will show you. So, this is speaking to that part of us that is the decision maker, that has chosen to create a personality that thinks it's separate, that thinks it's living in a world of separate people, walking around with separate ideas that are separated from God, and has created this personality and this identity that we call ourself. And the Course is not speaking to that self that we think we are. It's speaking to something beyond that, something that has actually was the essence of us, the will of us that chose to identify and go by the identity of what the Course calls our ego, or the false self, or the mind-made self. So it's speaking to that part of us that is, like the Course describes, it's like we have a split mind. And we're only aware of one part of our mind. But there's a whole other part of our mind that it calls being right-minded as opposed to wrong-minded. And this right-minded part is in union with God all the time. And that's what it's speaking to, that part of us that is chosen to be identified with this wrong-minded part. And it's saying, look, these thoughts that you're thinking over here, these things that you think you're seeing over here, they're not real. They're not the real world. There is a real world, but you're not seeing it. And you are only seeing division and separation and individualization when there's really oneness. And it's wanting us to question this separation over here, because we can only really see if we first realize that we don't see, that we're not seeing, or we're not thinking. So that's what it's talking about when it says, in one part of this lesson, it'll say, what you think you're thinking is you're not really thinking at all. But your real thoughts are one with God, and they're thinking the same thing God is thinking. And that's what we really want to get to. And you can get there. It's possible to get there. So that's what this lesson is all about. So here we go. It says, nothing that you think you see bears any resemblance to what vision will show you. Real vision. And that's what we really want, to see what vision will show us. Because it's entirely different than anything that we've ever conceived of. You know, there's the place in the Bible that talks about what eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, or hasn't even entered into the thoughts of man, what God has planned for them. And this thing that God has planned for us, the will of God, is always there. It's just covered up. This is going to show us. It's just covered up with these other thoughts that aren't even real. So let's continue. You think, and now it's talking to the you. Not the ego, but the you, the decision maker. You think with the mind of God. That's how you really think, your true self. Therefore, you share your thoughts with him as he shares his with you. They are the same thoughts. Our thoughts and God's thoughts are the same thoughts. And you're like, wait a minute, what? You're saying my thoughts and God's thoughts are the same thoughts? Well, not the thoughts of this other self, but it's saying the real you, the one that's in union with God right now, is thinking the same thoughts as God. So that's what it's talking to. We're talking about because they are thought by the same mind. In other words, God's mind and my mind are the same mind. In an earlier lesson we read, my mind is part of God's mind. I am very holy. All right, so to share is to make alike or to make one. Nor do the thoughts you think with the mind of God leave your mind. Because thoughts do not leave their source. And this is one thing in the text that it stresses over and over again. This is like a law that thoughts do not leave their source. That's why we're not separate from God. We are part of his mind, and we have never, ever, could never leave that mind or be separate from that source. Therefore, your thoughts are in the mind of God as you are. They are in your mind as well, where he is. So that's where we are. We're only dreaming that we're in this world of opposites and separation. That's really not where we are. We just haven't woken up. It's like we're sleeping. Your thoughts, are in your mind as well, where he is. As you are part of his mind, so are your thoughts part of his mind. Because our mind is in his mind, so our thoughts are also part of his thoughts. Because we're not separate. That's the lie. That's the illusion. Where then are your real thoughts? Good question. Today, we will attempt to reach them. We will have to look for them in your mind, because that is where they are. Your real thoughts are in your mind. They must still be there because they cannot have left their source. What is thought by the mind of God is eternal, being part of creation. So today, we're going to look for our real thoughts. It kind of like reminds me of that movie Hook. And you remember one of the lost boys had lost his marbles. And in the end, he finds them. It's kind of like we've lost our real thoughts, but they're still there. They're still in our mind. They're just covered up. So we're going to go looking for them today. Where are your real thoughts? Today we will attempt to reach them. We will have a look for them in your mind. So we're going to take 3 5-minute practice periods for today. We'll take the general form that we've been using and applying in yesterday's idea, we will attempt to leave the unreal and seek the real. Like that mantra, take me from the unreal into the real. We're going to seek to go into the real. We will deny the world in favor of truth. And this is another concept that we'll see a lot in the Course in Miracles, is the use of denial as a tool. We've denied the truth in order to build this illusionary world that isn't true and isn't real. But we can also use denial to deny the world that we've created. And so we're going to deny this world in favor of the truth, the true world. We will not let the thoughts of the world hold us back. No way. We will not let the beliefs of the world tell us that what God would have us do is impossible. Instead, we will try to recognize that only what God would have us do is possible. So this is possible. To reach our real thoughts is possible. We will also try to understand that only what God would have us do is what we want to do. This is our true will. There is no alien will. That's another part of the illusion, that there can even be a separate will from the will of God, or an alien will from the will of God. We truly, our true self, wants what God wants. God's will is our will. We are the will of God, it says. And we will also try to remember that we cannot fail in doing what He, God, would have us do, or she. There is every reason to feel confident. So let's get our confidence on that we will succeed today. Today. It is the will of God. All right. So begin the exercise for today by repeating the idea to yourself and closing your eyes as you do. God is in my mind. God is the mind with which I think. Then spend a fairly short period in thinking a few relevant thoughts of your own, keeping the idea in your mind that God is the mind in which I think, with which I think. And after you've added some 4 or 5 thoughts of your own to the idea, repeat it again and tell yourself gently, my real thoughts are in my mind and I want to find them. We're determined. Then try to go past, in your mind, all the unreal thoughts that cover the truth in your mind and reach to the eternal. These thoughts that we're going at, they're not like the world's thoughts that come and go and fly by. Zhoo, zhoo. These are eternal thoughts. They don't change. And they're always there. They're still there. The thoughts that we thoughts of love, thoughts of kindness, thoughts of truth, thoughts of oneness, thoughts of unity, thoughts of creation, they're still there in our mind. They haven't changed and they haven't gone anywhere. And we're going to reach them. And under all the senseless thoughts and the mad ideas, the silly mad ideas with which you've cluttered up your mind, beneath these thoughts are the thoughts that you thought with God in the beginning. So these crazy thoughts of separation and hatred and jealousy and just lack and poor and just all the crazy ideas, we're just going to slip past them to our real thoughts. So if they come up in your mind when you're meditating, just slip past them. They're not real and they have no substance. They're like clouds. We can go right through them. These thoughts are there in your mind now. Your real thoughts, they're there in your mind, completely unchanged. The thoughts we thought with God in the beginning, they're still there in our minds, unchanged. They will always be in your mind, exactly as they always were. Everything you have thought since then will change, but the foundation on which it rests is wholly changeless. That's what eternal is, wholly changeless. Something that is eternal is changeless. It is this foundation toward which the exercises for today are directed. So we're going down to these changeless thoughts that we've thought with God from the beginning. Here is your mind joined with the mind of God. Here are your thoughts one with His. This foundational place. For this kind of practice, only one thing is necessary. So only one thing. And here it is. Approach it as you would an altar dedicated in heaven to God the Father and to God the Son. And when the Course uses the term altar a lot, it's not a sacrificing altar, which we normally think of in the Old Testament, like where all the sacrifices and things were killed. But the Course tells us that an altar is our devotion. It's like our thought system that we're devoted to. So here is a devotion to our true self, our true, as a son and a father. We want to rediscover our real self and be devoted to it. And that's all it takes, is to really want to. For such is the place you are trying to reach. This is the place, heaven, where God and the Father are one. And they are. They've always been one. They still are one. You will probably be unable as yet to realize how high you are trying to go. Yet even with the little understanding you already gained, you should be able to remind yourself that this is no idle game, but an exercise in holiness and an attempt to reach the kingdom of heaven. So this is like, we're trying to reach heaven here. We're trying to remember, to know ourselves, like the oracle said, know thyself. Or like in the movie The Matrix, know thyself. Our real self. In the shorter exercise periods for today, try to remember how important it is to you to understand the holiness of the mind that thinks with God. Take a minute or two as you repeat the idea throughout today to appreciate your mind's holiness. And gratitude is a big thing in the Course. So we're going to appreciate our mind's holiness. In other words, appreciate the sinlessness and the completeness of our true mind, our real mind, the one we're trying to reach, the one that has our real thoughts. Stand aside, however briefly, from all thoughts that are unworthy of him whose host you are, and thank him for the thoughts he is thinking with you. So that's our task for today. God is the mind with which I think. And we're on this task today to reach that mind, to reach that foundation, to reach those holy, changeless thoughts that are our real thoughts. So I hope you reach them today. And if you don't, there's still tomorrow. So don't feel guilty or whatever, but give it your best shot. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of thoughts that we built on top of these thoughts. But it is possible to break right through them all. And so go and make your journey and believe in that it's the will of God, and you're going to get there. You're going to reach your real thoughts today. So God bless you on your journey, and mine too, and I'll see you tomorrow. Mahalo. Thank you.